Illinois. Yep. So again, there are a variety of models to look at, and I'm not going to pinpoint one because they're all, put together by experts at modeling and statistics, and so they can be a little off. But certainly, I would say that most of the models that I've seen, and there are a number out there, say that we will peak somewhere between the middle and the end of April. And, as we move toward it, you've seen the numbers that we report every day. On one day you feel a little hopeful. On another day it feels like we're going backward. And so it's very hard to tell, what's actually happening unless you look at it over a time series. And unfortunately, over a time series, as you see, we're climbing the number of people who have it, the number of people who are passing away. And so, I don't want to predict on a certain day that we're going to hit a peak. But I will say that it's very important for us to track this. And the reason it's important to track it is obviously it helps us determine what to do with patients who are in certain conditions. Could we, for example, begin to transfer patients, should we, to McCormick Place? Should we what are we going to do when you run low on ICU beds? You could, for example, add a ventilator and another piece of machinery to an existing bed that and turn it into a kind of a semi-ICU bed if in some particular place ICU beds became unavailable. And then very importantly, every day, frankly, we are working all across the state to expand the number of available beds. Sometimes that means moving 2 beds into a room that used to have 1. Sometimes that means putting a tent onto the side of an existing hospital and adding units there. And in many cases, it involves us looking to acquire every day. We are ventilators from everywhere that we can, and I feel like every ventilator at this point is a life saved. It's probably multiple lives saved, and so that's why we're working so hard at that. It needs to be a lower number, right? A vaccine later, a higher number. This virus knows no bounds. There are no boundaries that we can set here that says this virus won't cross the border between states or between cities or counties or between neighbors. This virus just moves to every human being that it comes in contact with, and so we certainly run the danger that the vast majority of Americans may end up getting this. And I guess the only hope that comes with that, is that we're able to flatten the curve, meaning that people will get it over time and our healthcare system will be able to care for the people who get it and who have some serious illness in the process of it. And I guess, again, if you look at the statistics, 80% of people who get it have, very uncomfortable symptoms, some range of, very uncomfortable to maybe slightly lighter than that, but recover. 80%. And then about 19%, and I'm sure that the doctor will correct me if I'm a little wrong, but I think I'm about right, about 19% have some range of something more serious that requires hospitalization for some period of days. And then a smaller percentage require an ICU bed, a ventilator, etc. 0.7 to 0.9%, it appears, who get it pass away. And again, if we have a treatment, this is very important. If you have to get a therapy or a treatment that gets approved, and there are a number that are being tested out in the world today, here in the United States and across the world, that some of which look more effective than others. If it gets approved, right, and that treatment is able to save lives, that's a game changer. And that would be before you ever see a vaccine. And it's not a game changer in terms of changing the number of people who will get it, but it's a game changer in terms of the number of people who will get sicker, end up in the hospital, end up in an ICU bed, or end up on a ventilator.
Pay close attention to the words that he used and what he's about to say. This is the month they're setting up for mass depopulation. This is going on all across the country. They're bringing in boats with several beds that they can fit. They're turning convention centers into hospitals that you can fit several different beds in. This is mass depopulation at its finest. As you can see, a lot of people have been reporting that there are no overwhelmed hospitals out there. A lot of these hospitals have been empty. So this is the month that you will see things peak. And at the end of this month, don't be surprised if you see a vaccine pop up.
What we're doing in McCormick is we've got turned on by FEMA to do a $75 million build. So we're in there now. Hall C, Tom, is basically 2 of the FMS. These are the FEMA the FEMA hospitals, 250 people each, a total of 500 people. They're going in, they're relatively what's called low acute, not a lot of injuries, okay? And this entire convention center is all COVID. All COVID in a convention center. But the total there is somewhere on the order of magnitude, I think about 3,000 that are going to go into the Chicago Convention Center, this McCormick Convention Center, and we want to write those contracts and get that in. Our goal is to have that one done somewhere around the 24th of April. And this is the main message that you need to know.
All COVID.
All COVID.
Right.
I did not think we could meet the COVID standard in a massive big building, but my engineers are telling me we think we've got the capability to do that.